Good morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m. I welcome everyone to the July the 1st, 2019 Commission meeting. Pam, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir. First is Gregory Preston.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, step right up to the microphone, please.
All right. My name's Greg Preston. I work at Browns Ferry, and I live on Newby Chapel Road, 16723 Newby Chapel Road. And we just put a new house out there, and what I'm talking about is the subdivision that's trying to go into on that parcel of land right behind the church in that corner. And what it is when we bought that land, all three of those parcels were supposed to be bought out as non-subdividable single-family home areas. And now they're subdividing it, putting duplexes in. And I just put a $500,000 house in, and the property value on my house is just going to drop like a rock. And just by the covenants that we had, it's supposed to be, like I said, a single dwelling house that was supposed to be on that property. So that's why I'm here to just speak my piece, see what we can do about it.
You want to address that question, Mark?
Well, what we review for is based on our subdivision regulations, and so our subdivision regulations that the county has does not determine necessarily the size of the lot. It just determines some things like drainage and what type road frontage and things like that are required. As far as covenants and restrictions goes, covenants and restrictions are civil matters. They're not. We don't. Because there's covenants and restrictions throughout the whole county, and we're not aware of all of those, and so it would be that would be a civil matter between property owners as far as enforcing a covenant or restriction.
So this commission can't do me any good, is what I'm hearing. Is what?
I mean, we don't enforce covenants and restrictions. Like I said, that's a civil matter. That's an agreement. That's an agreement between individuals. The county is not a party to that agreement.
Well, so there's no way you can turn down the division, is what you're saying?
I mean, they meet our regulation. That's what I'm saying, is that they do meet our regulation. So, I mean, these are the guys that vote, but they do meet our regulation.
All right. Thank you.
I'm here for the same thing. Can I speak to that?
Well, you have to wait till it's your time to
That's
speak.
right.
Like
That's all I've got to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. Do we have any more, Pam?
Yes, Jeremy Burns.
Mr. Burns, you mind stepping down there, please, sir?
Jeremy Burns. So I had the same type of question. So now that you are aware that we have covenant and restrictions on that property, the restrictions actually state in order for any changes to be made to our property, it has to be signed by all the property owners. Because we have that, would that not keep that change from coming?
That would be a breach of contract between private individuals.
Okay.
I mean, we're like I said, the county's not party to that agreement.
Right, no, I understand that, but because that's being voted on now, with that being known, would that not be taken into consideration, knowing that there's been a breach of contract?
I mean, it'd be nice if Mark was here to answer that, but we're, I guess, in other situations as private individuals, private property owners, they have disputes. I mean, they're not a judge and jury.
Right, I understand that.
And so, I mean, the only thing that they would vote up and down to is whether or not it meets the regulation now. I mean, I guess they could choose to table it and give y'all an opportunity to review and have your conversations. But, I mean, this is a legal subdivision that meets our subdivision regulations.
Okay.
The only regulations we put on is like for drainage and things like that. We don't enforce any kind of regulations. We don't have any no home rule out in the county.
Yeah, our regulations don't even mention any covenants or restrictions. Those are all private matters about private property owners. So, I mean, as an individual that purchased, if that individual that purchased that land, if they're in breach of that contract then that is a civil matter, a private property ownership matter.
It would be a civil matter between, you'd have to, an attorney would have to handle it to the, whoever's selling the property. They would have to go out there, whoever's redividing it.
Okay.
Like I said, all we approve is just the drainage, and we just approve, they just present a plot to us, and we approve it, but we don't have any control over any of the covenants or anything like that on it.
Okay. The other question I have, as far as it being approved as a subdivision, he's putting duplexes on that. Is that considered a subdivision?
I mean, it's a subdivision of land. So, I mean, anytime you take one piece of land and turn it into two, you're subdividing land.
When you hear subdivision, it doesn't mean like you hear subdivision like there's 20 houses in a subdivision.
Right.
It just means you're taking a parcel of land and you're subdividing that land.
Okay.
So that we don't have any idea how many homes will be there or how many duplexes or anything. He's just, or
At
she,
this
whoever
point,
it
it would
is,
be
is just splitting the land.
At this
Yeah.
point, it would be 5 lots. That's what we know. Is
Yeah.
it'd be 5 lots. The smallest of which is .47 acres, and the largest is .72 acres.
Okay.
Any time a piece of property in this county is divided less than 3 acres, isn't that right?
2.
2. Anytime less than 2 acres, they subdivide the piece of real estate. If I took my piece of property, if I got 10 acres and I divided it between 6 people, we had to bring it in. They had to subdivide that 6 acres, up into small tracts. That's all we're doing is approving that it's divided up into small tracts.
Okay. So y'all really have nothing to do with the deed or
No, sir.
anything like that.
All we're just approving that it meets our regulations, that it has been divided down to smaller tracts.
We look at roadway frontage, drainage.
We look at drainage.
Utilities,
Okay.
things to that effect. Make sure that, that they've checked with the health department to ensure that either sewer or septic's available. Those are the things that we're reviewing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more, Pam?
Yes, I have 2 more on the same subject, and 1 more. Daniel Golden would be on the Newby Chapel subdivision.
Mr. Golden, if you don't mind, please.
Name is Daniel Golden, owner of the 16701 Newby Chapel Road. I purchased the 5.67 acres there as part of these. It's connected to both of the 2 people who have just spoke to you, their property, and that was owned as one big 13-acre plot, and it was bought by 4 people. It was myself. I'm sorry, 3 people. Myself, Chuck, and Mr. Holland. Yes. So I'm here to just speak my piece, just like they were, And I recognize what you've already said, that it's a civil issue, but it was a document that was sent to all of us with deed restrictions that was placed in our contracts. So on my deed, and I had to sign an addendum that where the restrictions were placed on our deed that said, and I believe they did the same thing, that as a condition of sale of the property that we had to sign those restrictions or acknowledge those restrictions existed, meaning the seller knew about the restrictions. So my first question is, I would like to ask if y'all would consider tabling this until the proper people are here. You mentioned somebody was not here at the time.
Our attorney isn't present.
Okay,
He would give us
Yeah, I mean,
legal
he
advice.
could probably speak to the legal side of it
Legal
better
side
than I
of
could.
it.
I don't have the legal terms, maybe.
Well, that's one of my questions is, will you consider tabling this until he is here? While I'm up here, I will say I have seen a lot of drainage issues. Since that's one thing y'all are considering, every time I have driven by there, it seemed like from a period of several months during the winter time, there was always there was water standing in their area. So I believe that there's going to be some water issues, and unless they have a major plan to deal with that, they're going to have some potential washing, and also the neighboring property, he will be the one receiving some of that washout. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Thank you.
Any more, Pam?
Judith Shaver.
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, please step up here.
Shaver.
SHAVER.
Good morning. 16545 Newbie Chapel Road. We bought 10 acres, right at 10 acres, 9.67 acres, I believe, just right down the road from this entire area. I have a couple of requests of the commission, actually, understanding the legal and the private issues. And one is exactly like Daniel, if you guys would consider delaying your decision on this one so that we have an opportunity to look at the different covenants and making sure that everybody has, legally done what they're supposed to do and held to the agreements that have been put in place. As Daniel said, we all bought, it was a 40-acre tract that everybody went in on, and we were all pretty serious about how we wanted to protect that land. Property values, I assume the commission is concerned about, and you have everyone that has gotten up to spoke has built at a minimum $350,000 and above property in addition to the land that we purchased, so it was no small venture for all of us. These were forever decisions, and we thought we were making them in good stead and in truth with everybody that we were dealing with. The second thing that I would say is that I do have outside of the drainage, which has already been brought up, I think the commission should consider the traffic on Newbie Chapel Road and what the traffic pattern is actually going to be. Not on Newbie Chapel, but also on Nick Davis, which also feeds into these. So that might be something that you guys might want to look at, a transportation study or a traffic study there, because you've got right-of-way, and it's confusing anyway when someone's coming from the north side of Newbie Chapel and turning onto Nick Davis, and now you're looking to subdivide, and if you're putting 3 more duplexes there, that's actually 6 more homes. Multiply that times 2 cars per home. That's 12 cars, not to mention the other 2 that have already been already built there, which we already believe is in civil violation of the agreements and the covenants that we have in place. So that's all I wanted to say today. I appreciate the commission giving us an opportunity to, at least as taxpayers in the county, express our concern over where we hope to live forever and where we hope that our property values will continue to increase, considering that was the investment that we made. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer.
Thank you.
Pam, do we have any more?
Randy Mower.
Mr. Moore?
Good morning. I'm Randy Moore. I'm not sure. I'm talking about a different subdivision, the one that's over on Scoggins Road.
And it's not on the.
But
It's here.
Yes,
Use
sir,
the
it's
state
on-
subdivision.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, he's already broke the lots up, everything. I'm not concerned about the lots he's putting on there and everything, but they're having to move the electrical lines because of the way they run out across there. Is the county easement not there for the electrical lines and stuff when they move them to put their poles on the county property and not my property? Is that not what the easement's for? Is for y'all to use for water and sewer and electric and all
I mean,
that?
utilities can be placed on our right-of-ways. As far as any other easements, I mean, there are electrical easements and gas easements all over the county that are on private property, but that's something that the utility company themselves would have entered into. But our right-of-ways can be used that way, and they are used that way very often. But there are a lot of easements that have been entered into in the past that put utilities on private property, but that'd be an easement. If you don't have a such easement like that, or an easement such as that, then
There's a right of way.
There is an easement there, it's just they're placing the poles on the property.
There's
Right
a
now,
right,
the poles are marked to go up, they're already marked, and they're on our property.
And I mean,
not-
the property runs straight down, goes around
Well,
the
the
curve.
easement's like 3 feet away, and for some reason they marked them.
that you said it's the Athens Electric. Is that what you said? The poles for the electric?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll speak with Athens Electric. I'll get your information, and after the meeting, I'll speak with Athens Electric and see if we can facilitate that. The electric
I
department's not
spoke
under
to
our
Will
authority.
one time about it, and he said that's where I've got to put it.
Okay.
Well, but why does he have to put it on my property? When you got a 60-foot easement to put it on.
Like I said, the electric department's not under this commission's authority, so So I
You
can
know,
try
they
to
gotta-
facilitate a conversation.
Where they move it to, and then you go down and around the curve. There's 2 poles on my property, and then around the curve is also my property. But at this end, it's out in the right of way, and then there's 3 more down through there, and they're putting them out in the right of way. They put everything in the right of way except for the 2 right up here in the front of my piece of property.
Okay.
And,
Like I said, I mean, I'm unfamiliar with where they put their line, but I can help facilitate the conversation and have that
What was your
conversation.
address
What's
again?
your address?
I'm staying at 26651, which is right across the street from my property. I've got an address for it, but I really can't tell
That's
you.
on Scoggins?
Scoggins Road.
Scoggins Road.
The utility department would have to have an easement. If there's an existing easement there, that would be between you and the electric department, but they have to have an easement to put it on private property. They cannot cross private property without an agreement. Now, the agreement might have been made prior to you buying the piece of property, but for them to facilitate and put the lines up there, it would have to be an agreement, because they will not cross private property with a,
The
without an
agreement wasn't there beforehand because the reason they're moving the power lines is for that huge,
For that subdivision.
subdivision. In order to make the power work without crossing over people's houses, he had to move it out to the road. So there's clearly an easement. All we're saying is why ain't he using the easement? There's a 60-foot easement, but he's got 2 poles marked right on the property.
Well, like I said,
I
I'll
said,
get
we'll
your
get with
contact
that.
information and I'll call because we don't have any answers for you because we don't oversee the utility companies. But I'll like I said, I'll have a conversation with them and try to make sure that we facilitate that conversation. But I'll get your contact information and I'll be in touch with them right after the meeting today.
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Pam, do we have any more?
No, sir.
Pam, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Sammet?
Here.
Let the record reflect Commissioner Turner is absent. Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Harrison?
Here.
Thank you. Jason, would you leave the place, please, Mr. Black?
Will.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Black. All right, first on the agenda, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from July the 17th and July the 25th of 2019, June 27th, June 17th and June 25th of 2019. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Sammet. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Black. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Sammet?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Second on their agenda, I'll ask for a motion to approve claims in the amount of $2,705,061.95. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Sammet?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. At this point, do we have any conflicts of interest with anything coming from the commission today? With everybody silent, I'll take that as a no. We have no resolutions and orders. We're under contracts, agreements, and grants. I'll ask for a motion to approve agreement with Brad Hobbs House Moving for relocation of residence, structure, and outbuildings located at 1409 North Jefferson Street, Athens, Alabama. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sammet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Sammet?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Second on here, I'll ask for a motion to approve contract with TARCOG for Limestone County Commission for the purpose of implementing the SHIP program as of April 1st, 2019 to March 31st of 2020 for $5,000. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Sammet?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Third on the agenda, I'll ask for a motion to approve Limestone County Community Corrections Program for 2019 and 2020 for the Community Corrections Plan. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have no budget revisions, no merchant purchases, no board appointments. Under award of bids, I'll ask for a motion to approve with W.H. Thomas Oil Company our gas and oil for the gas and diesel for July the 6th through October the 5th of 2019 with the county commission for 30 cents over rack. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Samet. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. At this, on the personnel action, I'll ask for a motion to suspend the rules of order to add personnel matters to the agenda. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. First on the agenda, I'll ask for a motion to promote Travaris Hines from the corrections officer to expedition officer. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Second on the agenda under this, I'll ask for a motion to hire Connie Powers as a corrections officer pending a drug scanner. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Black. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Third on the agenda, I'll ask for a motion to promote Lori Mooningham to Nutritional Center Manager for Council on Aging. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Under engineering report, this time I'll turn it over to our engineer, Mr. Massey.
Thank you. We have two subdivisions for your consideration today, and both of them have been discussed in the comments. Newbie Chapel Estates, this would be addition 2. It's a minor subdivision, so this would be a preliminary and final. Total of 3 lots in District 2. It's near the corner of Nick Davis and Newbie Chapel Road. We also have Hughes Estates subdivision. This would be minor, so it would be preliminary and final. 5 total lots in District 1, approximately a half-mile south of Shipley Hollow Road on Scoggins Road. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. I'll ask for a motion to approve the 2 subdivisions as presented by our engineer, Mr. Massey. Do I have such a motion?
I ask that we table, Newbie Chapel Estates Edition number 2 until we can talk to our attorneys and make sure that we're on the right page, and nothing that whoever subdivided it has done wrong, but it's been brought to our attention, so I say that we table it.
Yeah. Okay. Also, since Steve's not here, and also I'm uncomfortable with taking action that could facilitate a possible breach of contract, and we just don't have the information.
All right.
Make a motion to table.
So we're going
Can we separate them?
Yes.
Yes, right now I have a motion to table the first one. I need a second.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. All right. And to vote on that.
Okay?
We need to vote on the table, right?
Yes.
I ask for a vote on the table.
Aye.
Give me-
Go ahead.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
All right, so the Newbie Chapel Estates has been tabled. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the Hughes Estate subdivision. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison, second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? At this point with the discussion on that, that would be dealing with the utility department. That wouldn't have anything to do with our dividing on that. So
It's true.
that being said, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So, all right. Under other business, I'll ask for a motion to approve the following 2 vehicle transfers from, it'd be from one vehicle transferred from District 3 to District 2 It's out of solid waste. It'd be a 2013 Dodge Ram 3500. Do I have such a motion?
Oh, I make the motion.
Motion by
That's
Commissioner
second.
Black, second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion?
The second one doesn't have anything to do with the first, right? Okay.
No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Second on here, I'll ask for a motion to suspend the rules of order to add to an inboard change to the agenda. To have such a motion.
I make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Black. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison. At this point, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'll ask for a motion to approve the sale of a compressor, gasoline-powered air compressor on Gov Deals from District 4. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Harrison. Do I have a
Second it.
Second by Commissioner Samet. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Samet?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have no scheduled public hearing. At this time, I turn over to Port Officer, Commissioner Samet.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday week. I know there's a lot of traffic out and it's awful dangerous, but just be safe. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Samet. Commissioner Turner is absent today. He had a doctor's appointment. He could not get changed, and he wanted me to say that they were out bush hogging, and he had been helping District 3 with paving, so he wanted me to add that to his comments today. Commissioner Black?
Yeah, we have completed the paving on Van Zyl Lane. Great job by the engineering department, my employees, and thanks to people that let us use employees. We'll be completing Wells and McCormick today, hopefully today. If not, we'll finish it in the morning. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Black. Commissioner Harrison?
I missed the work session last Wednesday because I accompanied Lynn Hart and the KALB board over to the facility over in Huntsville, the household waste hazardous material. It's a nice facility over there. They've got a lot of capabilities that we don't. And Lynn is, and Wayne Harper with the city councilman Wayne Harper went over there with me, and we're looking at, and she's putting together a proposal for a household hazardous waste pickup, just to see what Huntsville offered some assistance to come over here and help us, and she's working out all the details of what that will involve. Also, we're working out under the East Ferry Bridge. There's trees pile up under that bay, and we're in the midst of taking it out. There's a mandatory inspection of that bridge, and it has to be an underwater inspection, and so the trees have to be removed. So that's what we're working on right now. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. I want everybody to have a good, safe, happy 4th, and we need to say some extra prayers for all the people who lost their lives in their accidental tragedy this weekend. And, everybody just stay safe out here and have a good 4th. That being said, we'll recess until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, July the 10th, 2019 at the Washington Street Courthouse Annex 310 West Washington Street, Athens, Alabama. Thank y'all.